morning, everybody. I just wanted to let you know tomorrow you're going to see me with a slightly different look. I'm going to get my hair all chopped off because it's getting time for a haircut. I'm getting shaggy. You guys may not be able to tell, but I sure can. I wanted to say that sort of getting into the subject of what this video is about, that I've said in past that I watch and listen to a lot of folks on a fairly regular and ongoing basis. And I was listening to one such person, and I heard them talk about what amounts to the subject of this piece that I'm doing at the moment. And it's not that I think they got it wrong per se, but I'm of a mind that some other things need pointed out. Hello and welcome to the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I'm Kurt. I am glad to have you aboard this morning. It is Thursday, the 28th of January of 2021. Happy to have you joining me on Rumble on the podcast and on YouTube. Thank you for doing so. And today's subject is the swamp. I wanted to talk particularly about what amounts to the political swamp that exists at present in Washington, D.C. And I wanted to say a few things about that I think are important realizations that maybe aren't stressed quite so much as they probably ought to be. We know that Donald Trump, when he entered office, ran on the idea that he was going to, quote, drain the swamp. And that's more than an ambitious thing. As the person in question that I'm talking about who spoke on this subject, Dinesh D'Souza is who it was in this particular instance, said that's a pretty ambitious project and a pretty tall order. And the fact of the matter is, it's not something that you can expect will be done in 4 years. You have to understand something. The reason for the swamp analog, right, the reason that they use that, is that this is a huge festering mess that's been going on for a very long time that needs to be dealt with. But here's the thing. There are a few things that need to be considered about this. The first of them is that Donald Trump is typically not what amounts to a micromanager. He doesn't go in with his little micromanager team like in the Lego movie and try to set everything up exactly how he wants it. What he does is he tries to hire people that he believes, or bring people in, or whatever you want to say, however you want to put that, appoint, hire, whatever, who are going to do what he thinks he wants to see done, and that where he believes that they're in line with what he wants, right? So that's what he's going to do. So when he says draining the swamp, he's not necessarily saying I'm going to go down man to man and take out everybody who's there. That's not what he's saying. He's saying I'm going to try and bring people in who are going to make things better and reduce what's going on, stop the sorts of things that are going on in the swamp. And that means getting rid of people and so forth. I want to, obviously, part of what I'm saying here, though, is that there's time involved. You've got to take the time to do it. It's not an easy task, and it's not necessarily something where you just want to kick everybody out. But here's the thing. Besides the time involved, it's also true that you just can't kick everybody out and expect things to work. There are systems in place, and some of those systems must be there. They're critical systems and so forth, and they have to be there. So you can't just drop everybody off the edge of the earth and think that everything's going to be fine. So from that perspective, you really can't do that either. What you've got to do is put people in charge, like I say, who you think are going to direct things in the appropriate ways. Now, here's part of the problem with that. That means that you're going to have people down in the hierarchy of various agencies in Washington, in the Washington bureaucracy, who are going to be doing things that are consistent with what they believe other people would have them do, as opposed to what the president and even their managers would have them do. And the thing about it is, because they realize that to some degree they're a protected class and they're hidden down in the murky waters of that swamp, they're probably not going to be seen or dealt with. And that's particularly true if they're not managing high-profile positions, if they're not in high-profile activities, right? I want to bring out something else that I think maybe hasn't been talked about, and it is this. Donald Trump has managed tons of businesses, and one of the things that he had to do was make it so that those businesses did the things that they needed to do in the ways that they needed to do them. And so my point is that he has this level of expertise that applies to making sure that things run smoothly, that cannot be discounted. So the idea that he didn't do this or he didn't do that Well, you might have thought that that's what one had done, and that's lovely and everything, but the fact of the matter is, the guy who actually got in on the idea that he was going to drain the swamp, that was Donald Trump, wasn't it? Wasn't that Donald Trump? Was that you? No, right? Wasn't me, for sure. So the fact that I don't necessarily agree with everything that Donald Trump did, whether it was draining the swamp or tariffs or whatever it happened to be, right, is beside the point. What I like to think is the guy got put in place who was going to do things that needed to be done, and he had, just like every one of us, to prioritize his activities to make sure that he was doing what he needed to do, when he needed to do it, how he needed to do. Okay, that's just how that is. That's just how that is. So the fact that the, quote, swamp didn't get drained, well, first of all, I wouldn't have said that that was a one-term issue. I would have said that that was an ongoing issue, and that, in fact, you would have to count on potentially handing a part of that to a predecessor or a postcedent, somebody after you, right? This is the point. That you couldn't even finish the whole job yourself, not even if you got 8 years, much less if you had 4. Again, there's that time issue poking its ugly head up for you to look at. Now, I'm going to acknowledge something. I'm going to freely acknowledge this. One of the things that lots of people liked about Donald Trump was also one of the things that it happens probably worked in certain ways to his detriment. And that is that he wasn't a part of the political class. He can now make a sort of a claim to being a part of the political class because he has 4 years of expertise at the highest possible levels in doing that. So he can sort of make the argument that now he actually is a professional in that political class. But the point is, at the time that he started to do a lot of the things that he started to do, I'm not saying he had no experience in politics, but his experience was pretty much exclusively outside experience. And what that means is, when he tried to do a lot of the things that he did, he had to probably poke and prod and find different ways to do things. But again, I want to point this out. I want to make sure that this is quite clear. One of the things about Trump's expertise is that because the guy is sort of set to make deals, one of the things he did that was really very good was to do certain of the deals that he did in the Middle East and so forth. Now, those deals may end up being trashed, and that's just life. He can make a deal, but that doesn't mean that if he's not in a position to help keep it, that he'll be allowed or able to do that. But the point is, what he did was the things that he was good at, and those things he was very, very good at, and lots of people had egg on their face as a result of the fact that they said that what he wanted to do couldn't be done. My point in all of this is to say that Mr. Trump tried to do the things that he needed to do, and that includes draining the swamp, but it needs to be understood that his abilities were limited based on a lack of political experience and time, and the fact that he wasn't going to micromanage things, that he was just going to do things as they needed to be done. And that meant that there were other things that probably had higher priority in his mind than just draining the swamp. You know, he wanted to see taxes go down. He wanted to see people being taken care of. He wanted to see the forgotten man being dealt with. And there are a lot of people who are going to disagree with me on what all happened and why it happened. But I hate to say this, but we're just going to have to agree to disagree. Again, I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. Donald Trump is no angel. He's no angel. He's not a perfect person. And I'm going to say this again. I'm no angel. I'm no perfect person. Where I'm technically a saint, right, because that's a matter for another video, but where I'm technically a saint and he, claiming to be a Christian, can claim likewise, that doesn't make either of us anywhere near perfection. Okay, and I'm not saying that it does. But I am saying that I think that he did a lot to attempt to accomplish what he set out for, but more of it, in my opinion, was sort of on higher levels, and I think that sort of stumped a lot of people, even though that's something that you can expect for a guy like Donald Trump, who's been at the helm of some pretty heavyweight businesses over the course of time. All right, I'm at about the point where I need to wrap it up for the day, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Again, today is the 28th of January of 2021, and it is Thursday. I'm glad to have you along. We're rolling along towards the weekend in a serious kind of way. I hope that your week has been being a good one, and that you know, things are not too horrible. We've seen some kind of dreary days recently, but that's not too unusual for this time of year, so I'm not surprised to see it. In any case, again, I hope things are going well for you, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow. The speaker on this edition of the Daily Summation is Kurt Schubert. This video was recorded on Thursday, the 28th of January of 2021. The Daily Summation is created for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Thanks for watching this edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I hope you found it entertaining or instructional, or maybe both. If you want to see more from me, you can go to blogs.kpschubert.com. That's blogs.kpschubert.com. I am on Twitter, Parler, and Minds.com. My handle on each of those is @kpschubert. That's @kpschubert. I have a Rumble and a YouTube channel. They are the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on Rumble and YouTube. I have a Facebook page. The Facebook page is Kurt's Religion and Politics as well. I am on Patreon. If you want to support me, that's one of the better places you can do that. And you will find me at Kurt's Religion and Politics on Patreon. I have a podcast. The podcast is podcasts with an S. .kpschubert.com. That's podcasts.kpschubert.com. I think you should be able to find me with relative ease on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify as well. The best way I find to do that is to look for Kurt's Religion and Politics. You can try to use the Daily Summation. I find that it doesn't work as well as a general rule, but you can always try that. I'm glad to have you aboard today, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow.